Hey, so maybe VJ Edgecombe actually is the second coming of Dwyane Wade. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to the evening edition of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you guys making it your first listen and second listen today and every day. On today's show, we're going to talk some VJ Edgecombe, and that's not it. We're going to talk about him tomorrow, too, leading up to that BYU game and how he has transformed his game, and therefore the Bears have done the same, and why that Fran Fraschilla comparison might not be all that crazy. Plus, it's back-to-back tough losses for women's basketball, both the top 10 teams, but is this team not where we thought they would be at this point in the season? We're going to go over all that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. First, starting with VJ Edgecombe. I think we all kind of bought into the hype coming into this thing. Actually, we might have even gotten more poisoned by the hype than we would with some other players because, like Keontae George, we actually saw VJ Edgecombe play in the summer. You know, remember the Olympic trials? He almost single-handedly brought the Bahamas to the Olympics. A team with DeAndre Ayton and Buddy Hield and Eric Gordon was on that team as well. A bunch of NBA guys, like long-term NBA guys, lottery picks, national players of the year. And here's VJ Edgecombe at age 18 dominating the thing and almost taking Michael Thompson's team right to the Olympics. They miss out, but we got a glimpse of what VJ Edgecombe could be. And so I was on here doing shows in July where there's not a lot of content for Locked On Baylor. And I'm like, guys, this guy is for real. For real. And then for the first couple of months here at Baylor, by no means was he bad. No means. He put out these highlight reel dunks, and then there would be times where he'd just go missing in the game. And I would talk about, it just felt like there wasn't a lot of confidence in him. There was just a lot of passiveness, not a lot of, hey, this could be my team. And one of the silver linings, I guess, of this injury trouble that Baylor's been having, Langston Love still not really back. Jeremy Roach now out again and Jaden Nunn struggling, by the way, has helped in this. It's now been the VJ Edgecombe show the last few games. And that's been a big difference for Baylor. I think he played a huge part in them coming back to win the game against Kansas State on Wednesday. He was clearly the best player on the floor. He got to his 30 points. And you had Jalen Celestine making some nice plays in there. But for the most part, it was VJ leading you back. And in this game against Utah, double-double for Norchad Omier. But once again, offensively, VJ was setting the tone. And you could see how much more active he gets defensively because of this. You maybe didn't pinpoint it at the time that there was a lack of confidence. Maybe a little bit here, a little bit a couple games later. But certainly the way he's playing now, you're like, this is a confident basketball player. And I said, there's a way to run the offense through him. We haven't seen it yet. These last 3 games, you've seen it. Specifically the last 2. Where they're not a gifted three-point shooting team, but I think there's a way for them to be a good penetrating team, first off, and a way to create the spacing that you want through VJ slashing and cutting and taking guys to the basket. And the proof has been in the pudding. Since that TCU game last week, obviously a game that they lost, but since then, he's been over 18 every game, 18, 30, 21, 51 in the last 2 games. And he's only turned it over 6 times in those 3 games. 5 of them came against Utah, so maybe a little bit too confident. But he's taking care of the basketball for the most part. He's also dished out 10 assists in those 3 games. He's still filling it up in sort of every part of the stat sheet. He's hitting his free throws, and he is hitting more threes, guys. I don't know if you've seen this, but maybe not the way that we're like, oh, don't shoot it the way we are with Norchad, but he's getting around to being a 3-point shooter. He's up over 35%. It's one of the best on the team. Like, he's developing a shot here. And I'm telling you, by the time he's 2 or 3 years into the pros, he's going to be a good three-point shooter. And we're going to look back and think, oh, boy, why didn't we get the 39% three-point shooter when he was at Baylor? But that's coming along as well. I don't necessarily want him taking the big three when your team needs it, but he's been terrific. And Fran Fraschilla, before the season, put out kind of a lofty comparison. He said he reminds me a lot of Dwyane Wade. And I'm like, Dwyane Wade, like Hall of Famer. Dwyane Wade, like carried Marquette to the Final Four with Tom Crean. Dwyane Wade. That Dwyane Wade, that's the one we're talking about? Yeah, that's the one he's talking about. And honestly, seeing these last few games, as someone who watched a lot of Dwyane Wade's career here, it does kind of look like Dwyane Wade. Like he does have that in him. You know, the way he just, as a guard who's not the biggest in the world, VJ, I think, is a little bit, I think Dwyane Wade's about 6'3", 6'4". VJ is 6'5" with a long wingspan. But he can take anybody to the basket. Anybody. You know, Keontae was such a gifted three-point shooter, and he could drive when he needed to, but he was going to impress the heck out of you with his shooting. VJ is kind of a throwback to 15, 20 years ago of that guard who doesn't need to be a great shooter to be a great scorer, because he's not a great shooter yet. He might become one, but he's an incredible athlete who finishes well and has good basketball IQ, good instincts. That's what scoring guards used to be. That's what combo guards used to be. So he's kind of a throwback in that way. And so looking at Dwyane Wade's numbers, because you've seen the tape, like the tape looks similar, the style in which they play. I'm not saying he's exactly Dwyane Wade, but you know what I mean? The style in which he plays. And then you stack up the numbers. Dwyane Wade in that All-America season, his junior years, last year at Marquette, when they were playing in Conference USA, by the way. I totally forgot about that. They were not in the Big East yet. 21.5 points a game in that year when they went to the Final Four. And over the last 3 games, VJ Edgecombe averaging about 23 points a game. So, yeah, the whole season, he's at about 15. But if you're looking at when he's kind of turned it on, he's had those kind of numbers, 23 a game. Dwyane Wade was shooting about 50% from the floor. VJ is at about 44, 45, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, again, efficient enough guys. And you've also got to remember, Dwyane Wade was 21. 21 when this happened. VJ shooting 43%. VJ's 18. And he's just now kind of finding out his role here. So, yeah, as crazy as it might have sounded before the season, the Dwyane Wade comparison is not that far off. And if you're going to get a Dwyane Wade kind of season from him the rest of the year, maybe Baylor is a nailed-on tournament team. Maybe they do surprise some people down the line. A win tomorrow night over BYU would be impressive because, again, it's not to sound too Scott Drewy here, but it's not easy to win on the road in the Big 12. But really, I'm looking at that next game for Baylor to prove something, the Kansas Jayhawks. If you start beating teams like that, the Kansases and the Houstons of the world, I think you're done with Iowa State, then we can talk about what this team's ceiling could be. But then and only then. And we'll have to find out then. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that jazz. It helps out a ton. Speaking of finding the ceiling for a team, what is the ceiling all of a sudden for Nikki Collins' team, formerly known as the Lady Bears, and has it changed since the beginning of the season? Let's go over that next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, we have got it. Super Bowl 59 is on the horizon. Chiefs and Eagles. Boy, isn't that what we all wanted for the second time in 3 years? Well, that's what we've got. And there's no better place to make the big day even bigger than with FanDuel. Whether it's who's scoring the first touchdown, calling who's going to win the MVP, heck, you can even bet on the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to final whistle. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Lady Bears take one on the chin on Sunday against TCU. First time they lose to the Frogs since 1990. Whew! Remember where you were in 1990? I could tell you, but it's too graphic. This isn't biology class. Okay? The president back then isn't even alive now. The Berlin Wall coming down was still a news story. The Oilers won a cup without Gretzky. It was a long time ago, okay? It was a long time ago. The last time TCU beat Baylor before yesterday. It's back-to-back top 10 losses, so it, could be worse. You lost the number 1 team in the country and the number 9 team in the country in the last week. Nikki Collin now 4-7 against top 10 teams in her tenure here at Baylor. Last one was that win over Utah last November, early December, maybe. Might have been even December 1st. And so I said it on the show earlier today, the morning edition, that if you had told me before the season that, hey, late January, you're going to drop one to TCU and you're going to be out of the top 25, I'd be like, that shouldn't be right. And I know this team has gone through some things this year, but it feels like it should be better. And I'm sure they would tell you that. They had high standards going into this year. Nikki Collin, one of the reasons I really like her as coach, she doesn't really make excuses. At least not to the media anyway, that we can see, front-facing. But, you lose Jana Van Geitenbeek in the first game, second game of the season. That's tough. Jana Van Geitenbeek gave you a lot last year, a lot of little things. But you also brought in Aaliyah Matharu. You brought in an all-SEC player. Like that should make up for some, right? If not more. Just an all-conference player, averaged almost 20 a game. You got the post that you needed last year. Nettie, Aaronette Vonleh. And yet here you are. You can drop out of the top 25. And you're not really in contention right now for that Big 12 championship. And for most of that game, TCU looked a lot better. Now, you got to credit the Baylor team for making it a real game and giving them a fight in the second half. Like it was good effort. But at the end of the day, it comes down to wins and losses. And we saw some good effort last year. We saw some good effort the year before. But right now, it looks like this team is missing out on an opportunity to really take advantage of that Sweet 16 run last year. And one that, great effort. You took USC to the fourth quarter, right? The last couple of minutes. Great effort on Juju. But you lost. And so now it's becoming this question around Baylor Nation of when does it get better? Does it get better this year? Does it get better next year? What more needs to happen with this program? Because like it or not, whether it's fair or not, this fan base, when it comes to women's basketball, is still used to winning these big games. They're not used to going 4-7 in their last 11 against top 10 teams. Most programs would take that. But when you're coming off the run that Baylor had for 20 years, that's not the standard. The standard is higher than that. And even when you get rid of a Hall of Fame coach, there still should be a similar standard. And this is now back-to-back years going into the season where you didn't win the Big 12 championship. Again, most programs are fine with that. But this fan base isn't really. And I really thought they were there with Iowa State as the best team coming into this year in the Big 12. Kansas State, question mark. TCU, we didn't really get their full healthy team after January last year, so didn't know exactly what to expect there, although they were pretty impressive. They were, 13-0 to start last year, 13-1, whatever it was, when they had their full allotment. OU leaves the conference, UT leaves the conference. It feels like, okay, this is the time. This is the time to get this thing back going. Failure launch so far. So I don't know. What is it? What is the problem with this team right now? They've got leadership. They've got versatile players. They've got players who've been in the system for a while. They went out and got 2 really good ones in the transfer portal with Aaron at Vonleh and Aaliyah Matharu. And you've got your backup point guard who steps up with Jada Walker. It's just like, what is this team missing? Why is it not coming together? I think that's a fair question to ask at this point. There's still plenty of season left, and who knows what they can accomplish. But right now, it's like, really? This team doesn't even have a number next to it? It doesn't feel right. It feels like something has been missing, and we've been focusing so much on the men's team with something that's been missing, but it feels like it's gone that way with women's basketball as well. I don't know if it's, Madison Bartley retiring or, a couple of coaches being fired in the middle of the season and kind of the controversy surrounding that and still trying to get an answer. I don't know, but something's not quite there with this team. And we've said it most of the past 2 years. Well, they showed a good effort, but they didn't get the job done. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What would you fix from this team? What still needs to be fixed from the men's team? Please let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe. Helps out the channel a ton. Tomorrow, we're going to talk some more football, and we're going to preview this Baylor BYU matchup, and specifically Agor Demon versus VJ Edgecombe. I think there should be some good memes of Agor Demon in just all jeans and just make him Agor Denim. That's probably already happened. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day, and we'll see you then on Locked On Baylor.